Wow, there just aren't enough hours in the day. The month of August certainly got away from me, and some last-minute curveballs threw off my video editing timeline. Today's video will hopefully catch you all up on what you've missed the last few weeks, and give you a sneak peek at some upcoming videos. Now, the next couple of weeks will be pretty busy for me as I prepare for my wedding and the big move to Michigan, so please bear with me as we wait for a return to normality. We are currently 413 to 1 against and falling. So let's put things in some context here. A few years ago, while I was deep in my Bonsai therapy era, I came across Michael Hagedorn's book, Post-Dated, where he described his apprenticeship in Japan. I had just moved down the street from First Branch Bonsai, and being relatively new and knowing nothing more than there was a professional in the neighborhood, I set out in pursuit of my training. Throughout the last few years, I've been trying to thread the needle between paying bills, affording materials for my teacher, and trying to save up to attend the 100th Kokufuton exhibition. Earlier this year, an opportunity arose for a chance to work with Michael for a few days, and I made the tough call to prioritize that trip over Kokufu. This video and the 3 or 4 follow-up videos are what I get to share with you all instead. I had a pretty jam-packed week of travel, and then it was back to beginners classes, client work, and trying to squeeze in some last-minute prep for the 56th annual club show of the Rocky Mountain Bonsai Society. Now that the show is over, I have to focus on winding down with my clients here, packing, and all the last-minute stresses of a wedding. Despite all of that, I'm going to do my best to have the first video featuring Evan Pardue from Little Things for Bonsai People up by September 24th. However, Patreon subscribers will have access to it in an ad-free form as soon as I'm done editing. Without further ado, the first leg of my trip took me to Louisiana so I could reconnect with my Swamp Billy roots and make the trek out to Underhill Bonsai to visit with Evan and learn about bald cypress. I also had a chance to ask the burning questions that people want to know. What's your favorite Primark and why?
I really wish I could answer that question. I wish it was a magic question. You were like, who's your favorite planeswalker?
Evan was kind enough to interview me for an episode of Little Things while I was out there. That episode is out by the time his interview goes up. There will be a link in the description. From there, it was off to dinner and back to the airport so I could head into Portland to catch up with some friends and make some new ones. After touching down in Portland, I made my way to visit with Jan Rentenar. While I'm familiar with her pottery, I was especially excited to get to peek at her sculpture work. A lot of it was representing figures from Japanese folklore. After that, I made my way to the hotel, and it was time to start getting ready for my 2 days of work with Michael and Patch, the current apprentice at Crataegus Bonsai. Michael let us tackle a yellow cedar during the interview with Patch, but it was 103 that day, so there was some major headaches with the camera overheating. Sometime in October, y'all will get to take a peek at that artist spotlight. But just know that Patch is such a dedicated, hard-working human with a big heart. We may not have had a lot of time, but I'm sure the friendship we started will outlive at least one of my bonsai. Definitely keep an eye out for the upcoming Bonsai Wire episodes if you haven't had the pleasure of meeting them yet. Patch orchestrated a trip to Rikuyo to visit Andrew Robson's. I didn't get many good photos while I was there, but I am so grateful to Andrew for taking time out of his day for the visit, and for opening the door that made this whole trip coalesce. He really is a great teacher. After another sleepless night at the airport, I made it back to Denver. Now, just before the trip, I had accepted I wouldn't have my entries prepared for the club show in time and admitted defeat. So imagine my surprise when, upon my return, a good friend and fellow club member reached out to tell me that not only should I submit trees late, he would be upset if I didn't. At his urging, I reached out and began diving back in on show prep instead of video editing around the classes and my obligations to my clients. The show was this past weekend, and 2 a.m. on Friday, hours before drop-off, I felt as prepared as I could be. Will, if you're watching this, thanks for the kick in the butt. I needed it. Thank you for being a friend and devoting yourself to elevating local bonsai practice. I'll miss you a lot, buddy. Wow. Okay. The show. It was actually kind of overwhelming walking through the show and realizing how many of the trees present I'd gotten to help with in one way or another. Thankfully, I was able to keep the tears to a minimum despite all the goodbyes. My entries this year were 2 particularly sentimental trees for my collection. Some of you may be familiar with Miss Redeemable, the multi-trunk spruce. Been worked on a few times on this channel. The other one, though, the Dugarosa, had been planned to have a more artsy display as something of a capstone on my time training here. While that display hadn't materialized like I hoped, this unique twin trunk was collected at the very start of my training 2.5 years ago and was given to me by my teacher. Balancing the needs of the pondo and the fir has been a true horticultural challenge, and I hope to one day advance the pairing to the national circuit. While we still have a ways to go, some great professionals have had a hand in shaping the development of this specimen. Todd and Jonas Dupuy have given me excellent feedback and guidance. Plus, Larry Jackal, curator of Denver Botanic Gardens' bonsai collection and author of Ponderosa Pinus Bonsai, came over to help with show prepping the pondo side of this mother-daughter and record an interview. At some point this winter, y'all can look forward to that coming out. So that leads us more or less to today. I have one and possibly a second interview lined up before the big move, but realistically, with everything on my plate, getting anything up but the first Evan video before then is a tall order. If you would like to stay up to date with how things are progressing or vote on release order for the footage we have in the can, or just generally show your support for a budding bonsai professional, I'd like to ask you to check the link below to my Patreon. The interviews with Evan Pardue and Patch will be going live sequentially, with Evan's video going live here on YouTube just before the big move. But again, Patreon supporters will have access to it ad-free as soon as the editing is done. I am hoping to get cracking on the Patch video just after making it to Michigan, but I would expect that video to go live sometime mid to late October. After that, it should be a pretty consistent posting schedule through winter, as I'll be chugging through the backlog of footage. There's a few more weeks of light videos, but I'm sure you'll all find it worth the wait. And hey, if you happen to be near Denver on September 6th and 7th, I'd really appreciate it if you made your way to the Colorado Dragon Boat Festival. I'll be giving my first public demo as a professional, and just kind of hanging out with the other Asian American artists while we all work on our various crafts. I'd love if you came by and said, hey. Thank you so much for your time and support in this channel. I'm really looking forward to sharing the next stage with you guys.